Welcome to Flipped Lesson 12 for the 5th grade. Today we're going to talk about a number of different concepts. We're going to look at lines, we're going to look at number lines, and we're also going to look at tally marks. And so we're going to go ahead and get started in this. As we look at lines, really where we're starting with is we're going to start with the fundamental principles or the fundamental parts of geometry. And the simplest figure that we can start with is right here down by the smiley face, which is going to represent our point. And so we have what's known as a point. One single point is our simplest geometric figure. Now from here I want you to look at the other three figures above, and we're going to look at our second very simple figure, which is the line. Take a second and point at your screen and tell me which of the three is a line. Hopefully you went ahead and chose the top. We have a line here. We can see how it extends continuously in both directions, which we have arrows on both sides to make sure that our line is going on forever. So we have our explanation of a line. Now of course we have two other figures that we need to explain. And so what happens when a line does come to an end? It has two endpoints, like here and here. Now we call this a line segment. And we have that simple idea. Then of course we have the option of one endpoint, and then the line kind of continuing in one direction. So we have the arrow going this way. Though we could also have an endpoint here going the other direction that would also fit into this category, which we call a ray. So we have these four geometric terms that we want to get started with. Another part that we want to look at in connection with this is that our lines, whether it's a ray, an actual line, or a line segment, we can also draw them according to direction. And so we have three directions that we need to look at here. And hopefully you can name them just as fast as I am writing them. Our first one here we would say is a vertical. And because we have two endpoints, that would make it a line segment. All right. Next we have horizontal. Once again, it's a line segment because we do have two endpoints there. And our last two lines fit into the same category. And really we're looking at an angled line or a diagonal line. But we're not going to call it diagonal. We're going to call it oblique. And we want to make sure we're spelling this all correctly. Good. And so we have those three directions that can help us understand how lines work. Moving on to the next concept, we're looking at number lines also. And our definition explanation says that a number line shows numbers at a certain distance from 0. And as we look at a number line, the first thing we need to understand is that from one mark to the other mark is known as a segment. Okay. And we can also throw this idea, it's a unit segment. And so if there's no additional label on our number line, we are measuring in units. And so we got to think about this. Now a number line doesn't always just show whole numbers like we're seeing over here, but number lines can show all integers, which includes 0 and all of the negative numbers also. And so we have that idea. All right. And so as we look at this, we can talk about a number of different things that go into number lines. First of all, we can see our counting numbers, where we can go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7 to 8. And so we have our counting numbers there. But we also can put other types of sequences together where we maybe are starting at 3, and then we go down to 2, to 1, to 0, and then we continue on with the negative numbers. -1, -2, -3, like that. And so we can make lists of numbers in that way. All right. Now, part of what you'll be doing for your lesson is you'll be drawing number lines yourself. And so as we draw number lines, we want to make sure we have a nice straight line. A ruler is definitely going to be helpful on making a nice, neat, straight line. All right. And depending on what the question is asking, in this case, we're going to put our 0 right here. And we're going to increase our units by 1 up to 5. So we're going to go 0 to 5. So our last one is going to be 5 here. And as we put the rest of the ticks in here, we want to make sure that they're nice, evenly spaced. So we're going to do the best we can to make sure we have a 1, a 2, a 3, and a 4. And spacing was just okay on this one. And we kind of move these over a little bit. That's a little bit better. And then we can correctly label our marks like so. Other things we can do with number lines, other than looking at numbered lists like we were doing right here, right? Drawing our own number line, is we can do some calculations and figure out some information about number lines. And so we can have a question like that, where it says, what is the distance between -3 and 5? And to solve for this problem, we're going to look at our number line. We're going to go right to 3, -3 there, and it says we want to go to 5 here, and so we want to count our segments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And so the answer to our problem is 8 units. And so we have a couple of different ideas to look at when it comes to using a number line. The last concept that we're going to look at is the idea of tally marks. And with this idea of tally marks, hopefully this is a pretty easy review, but 1 is represented by 1 mark, 2 is represented by 2 marks, 3 by 3 marks, 4 by 4 marks, and here is where we get our change, where we have the 4 lines, vertical lines going down, where we have a oblique tally mark going across to get us our 5. And then as we continue on with 6, we continue that progression of having 5 written that way and then a single one. So if I leave you with a simple problem, I could ask you to write the tally marks for 7, 8, and 9. And we'll see how that looks tomorrow. In the end, that's what our lesson is about. We're looking at tally marks. We're looking at how to use a number line, and I showed you lots of different examples of way we can use a number line. And of course, just these basic geometric figures with the point, the line segment, the ray, and the line. And that is flipped lesson 12.